So it's the beginning of a new academic year, and a lot of people are scared, a lot of people are apprehensive for the new school year, and this video will be exactly a step-by-step process on how you prepare for the new school year and what lessons you have to take into this new academic year, this new version of yourself that's going to be present in the academic workspace. What this video is not some random NPC YouTube video where I tell you like the pens to buy and stuff, or like that you have to like work harder in school and like listen in class. I want this video to be more nuanced than like those random NPC videos. They all say the same thing, yeah? I want this video to actually help you prepare for the new school academic year. And if you implement these lessons in your life, hopefully you will improve, you will achieve your goals. If you don't know who I am a weirdo that has dedicated hours on like the scientifically optimal ways on how to prepare and like work harder. And also I take maths, further maths and physics I'm in year 13 now, and I'm predicted all A stars in them. So if you don't know, if you're not from the UK, like this is my final year in school, and I've basically maxed out my grades so far in like the UK educational system. I don't know if I'm gonna achieve the A stars, but I am predicted them. But before I tell you any of like how to prepare or like the tips to prepare for the new school academic year, let me tell you a story. Around a year ago, I was about to join a new school. I was in year 12, so like it was like 11th grade, if you put that in perspective. And I had just gotten like a good set of year 10th grade, like GCSE results. This is like the first public exam board in the UK. And I had gotten a very good score in those exam results. And this score had gotten me into a special type of school. This school is called a grammar school. This grammar school has like the smartest people in the country all concentrated in one place. So going into this school, I was really, really apprehensive on like exactly how it's going to turn out for me, because I've never been in this environment where everyone around me is really, really smart. So I was really scared going into the academic system or this new school. Was I going to make friends? How was I going to prepare for it? All of those questions arose in my head. So I did what any student would do, and I went online to see some advice by like YouTubers and stuff. And I was disappointed. When I went online to see how to get ready for school, instead of telling me lessons that they've learned throughout the year, instead of giving me advice on how to tackle harder moments in the year, especially going into like A-levels, this is the most important like period in your academic life. I wanted to see lessons, but I was met with like the Sharpie recommendations or like the pen recommendations, and that can be good, right? But I was surprised that no one was actually telling you like actual actionable steps towards getting better in year 12 or year 13. And I think that like no offense to them, but they're not like as weird and like obsessive over like these kinds of things as me as I am now. But back then I was really, really scared, and I was honestly kind of annoyed that no one actually gave good advice online. So I did what any very reasonable person would do. I went and consulted the one person that could help me. I went and consulted Jack, the homeless crackhead that lives down the road. So I went up to this guy, right? And I asked him a very intellectual question. I was like, I'm going into this new year 12 setting. What should I do? Now, Jack the crackhead had no academic record at all. And he told me that I should just smoke a cigarette, buy a dog, sell him the dog, and smoke the cigarette one more time. Looking back on it, I don't think that was very good advice. Mainly because it was kind of forceful. I didn't really want to have the conversation with him. He kind of like came into my face whilst I was walking. And I think he's in prison now. Yeah. Sad life. But anyway, I then went to the second best resource for seeing like advice for school. My Indian cousin. Now, to put this into perspective, my Indian cousin is, let's say she's very, very, how do I say this? She's very regimented. I went to her for advice and I was like, I need help. Like you're probably better than me at like certain stuff. So I need help. I need advice on going into this like new academic year. And she told me that all you have to do is, it's really simple. All you have to do is study 13 hours a day, every single day. And if you don't do that, you're going to fail and you're going to amount to nothing in your life. I then asked her to provide me with some kind of like daily routine that she has. And then she said that she wakes up, she studies 13 hours a day, she scrolls on Instagram for 4 hours a day, she eats for about like 2 hours a day, and then for the rest, like, what's that, 19, for the rest of like the 5 hours, she sleeps, and then she repeats that every single day with pretty much no breaks. Now, I don't really like that lifestyle. I don't really like the lifestyle of like studying too much. I've been in that boat of like trying to revise too much. And after that moment, I was kind of like sort of down in the dumps. I didn't really know what I should do. And after a year of trial and error, after a year of researching, I can fully say that I've kind of understood how to prepare for the year. How do you actually get good in the year with a few hours of work? So that brings me on to our goal. This YouTube video is dedicated to a specific type of person. If you're not this type of person, this YouTube video will have no effect on you. And the specific type of person I'm trying to aim at this YouTube video, so I can give you advice tailored to you, is the type of person that wants to get high grades in class, but doesn't want to dedicate their entire life around it. So if you're like taking hard subjects, if you're taking A levels, or if you're doing like some kind of degree work, you want to spend like time on the subject. You want to get very good grades. You want to get your A stars or 9s, but you don't want to spend like 10 hours or 12 hours revising like my cousin did. You don't want your entire life to revolve around that. And you kind of want to do other things like socialize, go to the gym and stuff. And I think I've cracked it. I think I have like the code. I have like the not the code, but like I have the framework that I've used personally in my life to achieve this, so far at least. And this is part of my bigger mission for this channel, to build a community of people that are high achievers, that only spend a few hours of deep work, like working, and then spend the rest of their time like enjoying life. That's my goal. Like if I can transform you into a person that spends like 2 hours, 3 hours working on something that means a lot to them, working towards their goals, and you basically do whatever you want for the rest of the day, that will be awesome. So if this like message relates to you, if this is someone you want to be, hit the subscribe button and consider liking and sharing this video. Anyway, this brings me on to this framework that I've used. This is the framework that I want to bring into year 13. The way you know I'm not like just saying random things or saying random information is because I personally want to implement this into my own like year. And I think that it will genuinely benefit you if you're like these, if you're a high achiever, you want good grades, but you don't want to work all day. I think that this video will really, really help you. So without further ado, I don't want to drag this out for too long. Let's get on to the first step. Number 1 is set big goals. Around 2 years ago, I was in a mosque. So if you don't know, I'm a Muslim by faith. So I was in the mosque, like the holy, holy place of worship. And I was walking out the mosque, and then I saw someone that I hadn't seen for about 8 years. I hadn't seen this person since I was like a little kid growing up. And I just had like a general conversation with him. I was like, yeah, how's life and stuff? And he was telling me about his life. And then we're both about like, he's I think 1 year older than me. So yeah, he's just finished year 13 now. And back then he was in year 12 or something. But he was telling me like how hard A levels were. So I told him that I was going to take maths, further maths, physics. And before I even like said like my goals and stuff, before I even finished that subject, he was like, no, drop that. You cannot take maths and further maths because it's too hard. Little did I tell him that I was actually planning, I was trying to get an A star in this, but he was like, no, you can't even pass maths. You can't even pass further maths. Further maths is way too hard. The exact phrase he used was, maths and further maths aren't for people like us. Now, what I was thinking about this the other day. This one thing has really lasted in my mind, because if I wouldn't have set big goals, if I wouldn't have set like kind of unreasonable goals to get an A star in both of these subjects, I wouldn't get them. I really wouldn't get them. And this is something that I really need to drill into my viewers and also myself, that whenever you're setting goals for something, goal setting is very, very productive. Whenever you're like trying to get into something, like either this is fitness, academics, or anything, or this, even this YouTube channel, you need to set big goals for that topic. The reason being is that when you set big goals, there's something psychological that hits in. Imagine this, right? You have one student who's just got into year 11, GCSEs, but his aim is just to pass all of them. Imagine you have another person who they have exactly the same grades right now. Imagine they're just failing every subject. But this person wants to get grade 9s in every single subject. Who would have the bigger drive to get up in the morning and like work? Who would have the like greater zest in life to just achieve and work harder? It will be the person who's aiming bigger, right? This is why every single high achiever, like go talk to the people in your school that always get the highest grades. They're always aiming for something insane, right? I was talking to my friend the other day. He was applying to like medical school in the UK. So he wants to be like a doctor. He had to write an exam called the UCAT. So the UCAT is like this big ass exam. It takes a long time to prepare for. And this guy was kind of like smart in class. He was predicted, I think, nearly all A stars. But he told me that he wanted to get 100% in the UCAT exam. And now, like, people around him, like, visibly, like, kind of laughed, kind of, like, mocked him. Because he was getting average scores. He was getting, like, 2,500, 2,600. But I talked to him the other day. And now he's getting, like, 3,300, 3,400 in his UCAT. This is insane because it's, like, top 1%. And I personally don't think he would have achieved that if he didn't have this unreasonable goal of getting full marks in his UCAT. Similarly, I've had so many people tell me in my YouTube, like in my YouTube like channel and stuff. If you don't know who I am, I've been making like YouTube videos for the last year, and in my videos I kind of promote this like ideology that you have to kind of dream bigger and set bigger goals. And people have told me on their GCSE results that they've gapped, like they've completely surpassed their predicted grades and the grade they thought they were going to get, just because they kind of dreamed bigger. The saying, where there is a will, there is a way, is 100% true. When you set bigger goals, your mind will automatically try to find a way to achieve them. And genuinely, just try set bigger goals when you're going into this academic year. So when you go into this academic year, your goals should be clear and they should be big. For example, if I'm going into GCSEs, if I'm just starting year 10, right? This is like the first public board exam. My goal should be getting a grade 9 in every single subject that I'm taking, regardless of what like grade you have now. A lot of people say, oh yeah, be reasonable. People say reasonable, right? I don't really believe this because people don't understand that you're not the same person that you'll be in 1 year. If you put in the work, if you really grind, right, you're not going to be the same person you'll be in 1 year. This was kind of like a shock for me in like GCSEs, because I was never good at like GCSE English, especially. It's a long story, but I struggled to like do basic literacy. I struggled to like read properly, and I was getting like 4s. Like I was just passing the GCSE, but I had this big goal of getting a grade 9, the highest grade in both English literature and English language, and I managed to achieve it at the end. And I can solely dedicate. I would not have worked as hard if I was just having the goal of just passing. And this is supported in like scientific evidence by this book over here called The Magic of Thinking Big. If you have the time, try and read this book, or try and read like a summary. This is honestly like, it will provide you like the scientific benefit or like the science-backed advice on how to set goals and how to like really think big. That's step number 1. You have to set clear, big goals that you're working to achieve in that academic year. You shouldn't go into the year kind of thinking, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like wing it or something. If you're going to the year, set big goals. If you're going into year 12, aim to get an A star in every single subject. If you're going into year 13, try to do the same thing. You just have to set big goals, and then your mind will automatically try to work out ways in how you're going to achieve that. So that's step number 1. Number 2, be consistent in your work with the use of a routine. So when I started year 12, when I started like this year 12 period, I was hearing these stories of people that said that they were revising 10 hours a day. So back to the story, right? I just joined this school of like very smart people. I was honestly like getting mugged by everyone else in like grades wise. Everyone said, like, honestly, in all of my lessons, I don't think anyone got less than a grade 9 in the subject. So in like my maths lessons, no one got less than a grade 9. I literally couldn't find anyone that got less than a grade 9. In my physics lessons, I couldn't find anyone that got less than a grade 9. And this kind of like gave me this like shock, because in my old school, I was like the only person who had high goals, and here like everyone's achieving more. Everyone's achieving really good. And I was hearing these people who are saying that they revise 10 hours a day after school, in the weekends. And I tried it myself, but it never worked for me. And the reason, looking back, that it didn't work for me is because I didn't have this thing called a routine. A routine is basically something set in stone that you plan beforehand that you're going to follow in the future. So it's basically like the timetables we plan in school, right? So in school, you have like, all right, 9 a.m. we have registration, 9 a.m. to 9:30 we have registration, 9:30 to 10:30 we have our first lesson, 10:30 to like 11:30 we have a second lesson, and so on and so forth. But you follow this every single day, so it's automatically like ingrained in your brain. Now you want to try and do this every day outside of lesson. Now this sounds like very, very hard, right? But having a plan or something consistent that's sustainable as well, like that, will genuinely help you so much. So I knew this one guy named Ollie, right? This guy literally studied for like 1 to 2 hours a day. His routine would be like, he would wake up, come into school, go home, and then after he went home, he had like a quick meal. He would study 1 to 2 hours a day, do some practice problems, do like the hardest exam questions or something, and then go out to like mountain biking, because he was like a mountain bike geek. But this guy, because he had followed this from day one, the same consistent routine every single day, pretty much every single day with no breaks, this guy got like the highest in maths in the end of year. So he got 97 out of 100 marks in his end of year. This is insane. Like, I think an A star is like 56. Right? Imagine that, right? 56%, and this guy got 97 just because he implemented this technique of just studying from 1 to 2 hours a day, every single day, consistently. You have to be consistent when it comes to like grades and stuff. This is a learning lesson that I had to like drill into myself, and I want to implement like to myself going into year 13. Because fair enough, you can have these people who say they revise 5 hours a day, but if you don't have this sustainable thing that you stick to every single day, there's no point. You're not going to go anywhere. You're going to say to yourself that I'm going to like cram for 6 hours a day. You're not going to do that. The best routine you have is the one that you stick to. And if you just schedule in like a few hours of deep work a day, you're gonna like honestly beat all of your competition. The reason I'm emphasizing that like only study for 1 to 3 hours a day is because there were people that tried studying 10 hours a day. I was one of these people in like year 11 and year 10, and even like some year 12 as well. I would classify myself as someone who anxiety cramps. So this is like a phenomena that I've noticed in people, that they're really, really scared about their results. They're really, really scared about their exam results and stuff. And they just, to counter this, they try and revise for 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, unreasonable amount of hours, because they somehow believe that the more amount of hours you do will equal better grades. But this is not right. The reason being is that we are knowledge workers. The grades we get is dependent on how we perform in the exam and how much knowledge we have. We're not factory laborers. We're not like, we don't work in a factory. In that scenario, if you're like a factory worker or you're like an athlete, doing more hours in the gym or doing more hours in like the factory would equip to better results. But because we're academics, because we're knowledge workers, the way we need to structure our revision is by doing very hard, like concentrated work for about 1 to 2 hours a day, and then just spending the rest of the day relaxing and recovering. This is literally scientifically proven to help. I know that if I was watching this like 2 years ago, I was the anxiety crammer. I was the guy who tried to revise 10 hours a day. But like working, it's really weird to say this, but like people who say they work 10 hours a day don't really work 10 hours a day. The task they do isn't like deep. The task they do is very, very shallow. You probably have like, if you've tried, I know so many people that say that, okay, exam season has come, like we need to study like 6 hours a day, we need to lock in, right? When they try revise 6 hours a day, they have like YouTube open on the side, they have like Teams open on their laptop, they're replying to messages, they're replying to emails. And when the day goes by, they're tired, right? You're the same level of tired if you just revised like normally, but you have nothing to show for it. This is something I personally experienced in my end of year 12 exam. So it's kind of a long story, but I nearly changed up my entire revision structure to try and cram for 10 hours a day, like the end of my year 12 exams. And my initial plan or structure would be just revise 2 to 3 hours a day. But when I started like trying to revise these insane amount of times, in a weird way, my grades went down. In a weird way, I was less productive. I would always find myself just watching random YouTube videos at the end of the day. And this has been like proven and backed up by a book called Deep Work. This book over here. This book is like the framework book that you need to follow if you want to work and smarter and get more done. This book, or this concept of deep work, should have been taught in schools. You should be taught how to work productively, because a lot of like what people imply is very bad. But I just want to read you some of this book. So basically, there's one scientist called Erickson. So Erickson, not the footballer, said that when you dedicate a certain period of time to just deeply focusing on a particular skill. Something called myelin is like an insulator to your cells and your neurons. So like an insulator, you probably know what an insulator is. It's something that helps transmit it faster. So myelin is this tissue in your brain that will help transfer neurons or like thoughts faster. And when you are not distracted and you focus on one singular thing, this myelin grows around your brain, and that one circuit for that specific cell works more efficiently. So that myelin grows and that one cell works more efficiently. But when you're distracted, when you have other things open on like your computer or something, this myelin doesn't grow and you don't grow in that skill. So I'm actually going to make a complete guide on like a big video on exactly how you work in the future. If you're interested in how you actually should work, and I genuinely hope that you invest some time into this, because working is one thing that you will do in the future. And if you understand the scientific process of exactly how to work and how to work efficiently, you will become more successful like by that. So I'm going to make a full video on exactly how to work in about 2 weeks time, so watch out for that video. But basically step 2 is plan out your like day in this sort of school timetable and be consistent. Wake up at the same time every day, go to sleep at the same time every day, and plan some deep work sessions that you're going to work in. I actually made a full Notion guide. So Notion is like this software that you can use to like organize your life and basically like plan ahead. And I made a full guide on how to like structure your life and how to like plan ahead. I'll link it up here somewhere. I genuinely recommend this. I think my way of like planning ahead is kind of good. So if you like that, go ahead and click here. If you don't, go watch someone else and find their like YouTube videos or their planners for planning ahead and having a routine. But yeah, that's step 2. Be consistent and just show up every day to work for about 2 hours a day and build a routine. Step number 3, become organized and plan work ahead. So after my year 12 exams, so after my end of year exams that determined my predicted grades for university, I fell into this really bad habit. So my routine after I had my exams finished would be to go to school, not listen in any of the lessons, go into my freeze and play Minecraft and Call of Duty with my friends. I did that for about 3 to 4 weeks, and I didn't listen in class at all. Like, I'm ashamed to say that I didn't listen to class at all. I completely missed all of like the physics, the further maths, the maths content that they were saying in class, and that led me to having to catch up after that period of time. And looking back, the reason I fell into this like cycle of like this waste man cycle of just playing COD every single day, where all of my mates were preparing for like admissions tests for universities, or like writing personal statements. I was the only guy just playing games in the common room where everyone was revising. The reason that I didn't like be as productive as I could have was just because I didn't plan work ahead after the exam period. If I would have scheduled my day and if I would have like planned my day out, I would have not I don't think I would have gone into this like cycle of just playing games and not listening in class. So basically, you should have this goal for the year. Like, if I want to get good like all A stars, and then you should work backwards on like exactly what you have to do to get those A stars. So if you have like GCSEs, if I want to get grade 9 in GCSE English, I need to do this practice paper by this time period. I need to learn this content by this time period. And you should just plan out your entire year, like vaguely plan out your entire year. And whatever month you're in, you should then plan out work for that. That's why I recommended this video, this like Notion video, because it helps you plan out work as well. If I would have, I admit I kind of fell off productivity and like being an academic weapon after my year 12 exams, just because I didn't plan ahead. And that's something I need to keep in mind when I'm going into year 13, because I can't afford to like fall off in year 13. I need to keep consistent in year 13. And I think the best way to do this is by planning work ahead of time. For example, October, I have to do this. In November, I have to do my personal statement. Planning ahead like this would really, I think, benefit me. And I think it will benefit you if you just work backwards from your big goal and plan ahead. One thing I do want to say is that when you do plan ahead, you're going to be like organized. You're going to like mug people around. You're literally going to be like that one guy who actually has direction in life. You know exactly what you have to do when, and you're just going to academically mug people around you. But one thing I do want to say is you're never going to be 100% perfect. This plan will always be changing, and A lot of people, when they see that, okay, I haven't done this, I haven't done that, they just scrap the entire plan and they go back to their old ways. But they don't understand that this plan that you have, this plan of like scheduling work ahead, is meant to be, it shouldn't be 100% like perfect. You're still a teenager, I think. I don't think I have many people older than like 18 on this channel. You're still a teenager and you still have limited amount of productivity. So don't be angry if you can't do the work, if you can't stay 100% organized. This is our goal. Like, aim for this, but don't scrap the entire system just because you've like slacked for 2 weeks. That's normal. I slacked for like, what, 2.5 months? I didn't do any work for 2.5 months. But I understand that, like, objectively, organization is a good thing. Objectively, planning your work ahead is a good thing. And if you fall behind, and if you don't do the work, this fault is on you. You should take accountability, but then just get back into the flow of things. You shouldn't like become this guy that says, oh, this doesn't work now. Like, I shouldn't be organized now because like it didn't work for me. I didn't become like 100% perfect. No one's 100% perfect, but having this organization system, scheduling work ahead, will 100% just make you a better student in general. I say this because I've tried to stay organized so many times. I've tried to like make everything organized, schedule work so many times in the past, but every time I would fall off, every time I wouldn't do work, I would just scrap the entire system and go back to my old ways of just like doing random stuff in a day. Have this idea in mind in the future, and like understand that if you fall off, it's kind of normal. Like, everyone falls off once in a while. So that's step number 3. Be organized and plan your work backwards from your goal, and just stay organized in general. Have like a direction in your academic year. Step number 4, limit input from random people in your life. This tip is probably like one of the most important tips that I wish I had told myself in the past. I told you in the start of this video that this random Bengali kid that I hadn't seen in 8 years convinced me, or like sort of tried to convince me, not to take further maths and maths. I was strong then and I didn't listen to him then. But unfortunately, it didn't happen to me in like end of year 12. So in the end of year 12 exam period, I somehow got convinced to scrap my entire revision schedule and move to what everyone else was doing around me, like all of my mates were doing, where they were just grinding for 10 hours a day, just like grinding for 10 hours a day and trying to revive, like not going to the gym, not doing anything productive, not leaving the house, just sitting down and grinding for 10 hours a day. I didn't consult this with anyone. I didn't like go to someone more knowledgeable than me and say, oh, is this good? I didn't consult like books like this one. I didn't do anything. I didn't actually think about this for that long. I just switched. I scrapped my entire revision schedule. And what happened? I nearly messed up my entire exams. I had to like revert. If I didn't revert back to my old ways, if I didn't revert back to like revising in moderation but revising deeply, I wouldn't get the grades I got now. And now, like, of course, I got the predicted grades, so like it was nice in the past, but this like genuinely played on my mind. I changed my entire revision schedule so quickly just because some random person said it. And this is something I really need to take into year 13. If someone that doesn't have the goals that you have, like if someone isn't accomplished in the things that you want to achieve, or hasn't at least tried and like narrowly missed it, don't take advice from them. This is so like logical and so simple to say, but a lot of people don't do that, right? A lot of people go on like random Reddit. They take advice on like Reddit, where like no one is actually validated. It's just random students, right? And of course, like some information can be good, but you shouldn't be deciding. You shouldn't make impulsive decisions based on everyone else. And like I've had countless like instances where I've just taken random advice from people around me because they were smart, but they were in my year. And they didn't have the credentials. They didn't have like the grades to prove that they were right. I just took their advice just because like it's their opinion. Everyone has an opinion. If you take my advice and you have big goals in like academics or whatever, people are gonna have an opinion. People are gonna say that you can't do it. People are gonna say that, oh, you shouldn't do it this way, you should do that way. And I'm not saying that all of them are wrong. What I am saying is that it's your life. You should be the determinant of this. You should take complete accountability on your grades. And if you get bad grades, you should really be introspective and say, okay, how did I mess up? Or if you get good grades, say that, okay, it's worked because of this reason. Don't make impulsive decisions by people you don't know. When you do take advice, when you do want advice from some people, go consult people that are more like students that have been through it. So if I want like advice on like A-level physics or university admissions exams, I wouldn't go and ask the random like flipping guys in my year, right? I would go to like some students who got into good universities, some students that have narrowly missed out. I would take their advice. I would then sit down and then kind of like write about the pros and cons of doing something, journal about it for a bit, and then make a decision. If you haven't thought about something for at least 2 hours, you shouldn't make a decision on this. Personally, I knew this one guy who dropped A-level physics within the first 2 weeks of the class because he didn't like the content in the first chapter. He didn't like the first chapter. But because he hadn't really thought about the decision, he wanted to do engineering at university, but he needed physics. And now he's in like this pickle because like he hadn't consulted anyone more experienced than him, and he just listened to the people around him saying, oh yeah, like this subject is kind of trash. So what I want to drill into you is that you're going to have advice. People are going to have opinions about your revision strategy. People are going to have opinions on your goals. People are going to have opinions on you. Don't listen to them unless they're someone that you respect, at least academically. So that's something I want to end the video on. I haven't been very like actionable, like in like exactly what software you have to use or exactly what you have to consult, because I kind of want people to find that in their own. I want to give people the general advice or like the general sort of mindset you need to have going into the new academic year, rather than giving them like the actionable steps or like the pens from Amazon to buy to get you good grades, because I feel like this is much more valuable than this like random like NPC YouTube videos that say, oh yeah, just study hard, guys. I think that if you implement these steps, you will definitely like grow in some way. I'm not saying that you'll get your goals 100%. I'm saying that you'll probably grow if you take these pieces of advice. So after seeing this video, if you take this advice and you implement these 4 steps, you're probably going to achieve your goals, and people are going to ask you how you've done it. How have you like gone from this transformation? And when they do, recommend them this video, share this video, and tell them to subscribe to this channel. Also, if you resonate with my content, and if you kind of like my mission of like building an audience of high achievers that don't really work for that long, but do get very high grades or like very high goals or whatever, consider subscribing. Share this video to someone who also needs advice in this new academic year, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.